Hello and welcome to another episode of the All-CAW Wrestling podcast video type thing, where we once again take you through the matches, main events, and of course, mullets of the WWF and WCW of yesteryear. I am All-CAW Wrestling's very own Blue Pants, the Big Daddy D, and I'm joined here at the podcasting table by No Pants, Little Daddy E.
'Tis I'd have no pants.
Can you please go put some trousers on, please?
Never!
How are you feeling?
Well, we're actually filming this, around Christmas, and this is the one time I'm suddenly, ill.
Yes.
I feel horrible.
So you may sound a little croaky during the podcast.
Yeah, this is always fun.
So, today we're taking a retrospective look back over the NWA WCW of yesteryear. It's
The Great American Bash from 1989, the glory days. The date is July 23rd, 1989, and we are live from Baltimore, Maryland. Only not really.
Once again, Turner Home Entertainment shows how feckin' useless they are by having a photo of the Ric Flair vs Ricky Steamboat match from Wrestle War on the front cover of the video for this pay-per-view. Now, if this had been the cover of the Wrestle War video, then that would have been just fine. And of course, WWE have used that as the thumbnail for this pay-per-view on the WWE Network. Good work there, lads.
Your hosts this evening are Jim Ross and Bob Caudle, and our opening match is a two-ring battle royal.
Yes, the idea is very simple. Everyone here qualified by winning a battle royal. And now, there's another battle royal to pick the winner of those competitors.
Right, sounds good so far.
Everyone starts out in ring 1.
What?
And once they're eliminated, they start a new battle royal in ring 2. The winner of the first ring faces the winner of the second ring in a match. And the winner of the match gets 50 grand.
Yeah, that's very simple and not convoluted at all.
No. Varsity Club members Kevin Sullivan and Mike Rotunda are in the match, but they are the only remaining members of that team. Following Wrestle War, Dr. Death Steve Williams left the group to align himself with the Road Warriors and the Midnight Express, turning babyface again in the process. He also appears to have stolen Hulk Hogan's wrestling gear for tonight, for some reason. Dangerous Denny Spivey is now teaming up with newcomer Sid Vicious in a new tag team called the Skyscrapers, managed by referee-turned-manager Teddy Long.
Teddy Long managing a tag team player? So this is where it must have all started! Holla holla.
Yes, very good. As well as Sullivan, Rotunda, Williams, Spivey and Vicious, the match also has Ron Simmons, Ranger Ross, Eddie Gilbert, Terry Gordy, Bill Irwin, Brian Pillman, Rick and Scott Steiner, and a curly, blonde-haired Scott Hall, along with his pawn tash.
Wait a minute, that was Scott Hall?
Yes, he changes his look quite a bit as his career goes on. It's certainly very interesting to see Sid Vicious, Brian Pillman, Scott Steiner and Scott Hall all making their pay-per-view debut in this one match. A handful of the guys in this match are going to be pulling double duty tonight, but it's pretty obvious who's going to win just by looking at the participants. In the end, we're down to Spivey and Vicious in the ring together. The crowd get excited over the prospect of the Skyscrapers turning on each other, but then Teddy Long announces that they'll split the prize money, pissing the crowd right off good and proper as this match comes to a non-finish at 8 minutes 25 seconds. Nothing much to rate here, really.
After the match, we get a pre-taped promo backstage from Terry Funk. WCW shows just how Bush League they still are at this point, when the tape screws up and Terry's voice goes very, very deep like he's just been possessed by Satan. Yeah, bit scary that.
I'm Terry Funk, and I'm here to make a plea to you simple-minded people about the animals of the world today that are becoming extinct. I'm talking about the whales. There's just a couple 100,000 left. And the wolves in our north forest, about our polar bears, about the whooping crane. But what is the most endangered species of all? You are looking at him. There is only one funker in this world today, and that is me. Now, I am an individual, I am an athlete, I am no member of any organization or corporation. I stand alone, And when I make a promise to you, believe me, the funker will make it good. Because I am making the promise to you today that all
the glory days to be born.
Well, all right, fans, we had a little problem with that videotape.
So, our next match is Wild Bill Irwin versus Flying Brian Pillman.
I don't recall there being an issue here between these two, so this is probably just to put over newcomer Pillman. Wild Bill tosses Flying Brian to the floor. Pillman comes back with his aerial manoeuvres, but misses a missile dropkick. Irwin grinds his boot in Brian's face and spends an awful lot of time trash-talking.
Irwin then javelins Pillman to the other ring, but he makes the mistake of arguing with the referee, Nick Patrick. Pillman climbs the turnbuckle in the opposite ring and flies onto Irwin for the win at the 10-minute 18-second mark. There's a great debut showing from Pillman here.
Next up we get a promo from Paul E. Dangerously, who refers to Cornette injuring his knees badly from coming off the scaffolding at Starrcade 86, and that he'll be going for his knees tonight. See, this is exactly why scaffold matches were a bloody stupid idea.
Next up, it's everyone's favourite skateboard-carrying, blonde-mulleted tag team, the Dynamic Dudes, against the new tag team of the Skyscrapers.
It looks like the dudes have swapped their skateboards for frisbees, and they actually drag this poor kid out of the audience to play frisbee with them.
He looks like he really doesn't want to be there. JR then reminds us that there aren't any snakes or dogs here at the NWA, and certainly no bodybuilders that have been in a tanning bed for too long. I wonder who he's referring to.
Of course, JR is trying to highlight the differences between the NWA/WCW, who actually, wrestle, and the silly, cartoony WWF. Of course, what he's saying is irrelevant, considering that two blokes with frisbees have just come down to the ring. Teddy Long is waving around a crown that appears to have come from a toy shop. And, oh yes, the Steiner Brothers will be coming down to the ring later on tonight with a dog.
Still sending out conflicting messages there, Jimbo.
Ace plays the face in peril and gets slapped around a bit by the big guys. Sid gets a lot of cheers from the crowd. They're actually chanting, "We want Sid," which would explain why Sid would later get pushed as much as he did. The crowd even started booing whenever Sid tagged out and Danny tagged in. Shane gets the hot tag, but the Skyscrapers basically cut his head off. Bit harsh. Sid works Shane's back over as only he can, by applying a claw hold to the back. What exactly is he trying to do here? Give him a nice relaxing massage? Johnny hot tags back in and manages to get the Skyscrapers to accidentally clothesline each other. Danny sells getting clotheslined by his partner, Sid does not. Sid then calmly just dismantles both dudes to the delight of the crowd. Spivey finishes Ace off with a really sloppy looking botched powerbomb at 9 minutes 14 seconds. Now that was a squash.
Again, I really don't understand the booking here. We had the Samoan SWAT team beat the Midnight Express at Clash of the Champions, and then the Samoans were beaten by the Dudes at Wrestle War. Now we've had the Dudes get completely destroyed by the Skyscrapers.
Huh?
What? Anyway, our next match is a tuxedo match. Jim Cornette versus Paul E. Dangerously, who comes out with a theme from Halloween for some reason.
Yeah, that was a bit odd.
Yeah.
Cornette attacks early, but Heyman throws powder in his face and starts bashing Cornette's knee with his cell phone.
Psychology!
It's odd that this should be a comedy match between these two managers, but they're actually putting more effort into it than some of the wrestlers. Paul misses an elbow drop and takes a flying bump off a Cornette uppercut that Mr. Perfect would be proud of.
Paul tries a powder trick again, but Jimmy kicks it back in his face and strips him down to his sky blue underpants at 6 minutes 28. Ugh. I really didn't need to see that.
You're already feeling ill as it is.
I know. Also, Bob Caudle seems exceptionally excited to see a male nudity. Make of that what you will. Our next match is a Texas Tornado match with the Super Steiner Brothers with Missy...
The Super Steiner Brothers?
Yeah, the Super Steiner Brothers. Anyway, they're with Missy Hyatt and they're versus the Varsity Club.
The Super Steiner Brothers, so Missy Hyatt is Princess Peach then?
Yeah. Well, you wrote it on the script as the Steiner Bros, then put a dot on it, so, Super Steiner Bros.
So is Rick Mario and is Scott Luigi?
Yeah, actually. That'd work.
Very odd. That's put up all kinds of images now as that. Rick and Scott Steiner is coming down to the ring wearing overalls and plumber's caps.
Maybe we can make him on the WWE and then give him alternate ties that makes him into Sims. Anyway, yeah.
So anyway, this is Scott's pay-per-view debut and the first time that the Steiners have teamed up. After the tag team of the First Family struggled against the Varsity Club, Rick finally brings him his little brother to kick some ass. They're accompanied to the ring by Missy Hyatt, which gives Jim Ross the opportunity to say, "Look at that pair, wink wink."
And I thought Jerry Lawler was a perv.
The Steiners come out to Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses for the first time, although you wouldn't know that on the WWE Network, because they've dubbed it over with something else.
Hooray!
The match winds up being a crazy, wild brawl, which probably wouldn't surprise you if you've ever seen a Kevin Sullivan booked match.
Yeah, he eventually would book this style of match into the ground over the next 9 years.
Sullivan pairs off with Rick while Scott takes on Captain Mike. Too much going on to recap, but it's never dull. At one point, Rick actually picks up an entire table and hits Sullivan over the head with it. I mean, never mind picking up a chair, he picks up an entire fucking table and hits him with it. It's just like something you'd see out of No Mercy for the N64, or SmackDown 2 Know Your Role for the PlayStation 1. I loved it.
Rick blocks a sunset flip from Sullivan in the most scientific way possible, by headbutting him in the dick about 18 times. This is wrestling, folks!
The ending sees Scott yank down the ropes, sending Rotunda to the floor. Sullivan tries to slam Rick, but Scott goes up and jumps off onto them, piling both Steiners right on top of Sullivan for the 3 count, and to finish Rick's long feud with the Varsity Club once and for all, at the 4-minute, 44-second mark.
Our next match is the first title match of the evening, the World TV title, which is owned by Sting, who's coming out with Eddie Gilbert, versus the Great Muta, who's coming out with Gary Hart.
Muta was such a badass at this point. He was coming in undefeated after debuting in the spring. Sting, meanwhile, is the number 2 babyface in the NWA. Muta wants to start off in the wrong ring, so Sting jumps over the ropes onto him with a flying crossbody, setting the tone for the match. Muta comes back with his handspring elbow. Sting avoids a moonsault and no-sells a jumping spin kick, but Muta enziguris him to the floor and follows with a pescado.
Kick right to the midsection. Follows it with an American clothesline. Made in the USA, this kid. From Venice Beach. Clothesline off the top rope. 1. He got 2 out of it, Nick Patrick says.
Jim Ross is truly in his element here, playing up the All-American hero versus the evil foreign monster angle.
Sting comes back with his own high-flying moves and a military press. Muta avoids an elbow drop, though, and employs a rope-assistant abdominal stretch. A second handspring elbow misses, and Sting makes the big comeback with a bulldog.
Muta does the red mist. Remember in our previous podcast what this does. It's a burning mist, like rubbing hot sauce in your eye. But Sting ducks it, and it's actually the referee that gets blasted with it instead.
Sting misses with a stinger splash, and Muta hits the moonsault as a second referee runs down to count. 1, 2, 3, no! Sting gets the shoulder up. Stinger then ducks a wild spinning kick from Muta and hits a bridging backdrop suplex for the win at 8 minutes, 8 seconds.
However, replays show that Muta had his shoulder up too, so he decides to run off with the World TV title himself.
The belt would then be declared vacant for a number of months until Muta won the eventual rematch between the two. This match was a case of 2 guys winding up in the same promotion at the right time in their careers and putting on a great match. This is about as good as you'll get in 8 minutes, which still remains fantastic to watch even today.
Next up, for the US title, it's Lex Luger versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Ricky Steamboat comes out with his very own kimono dragon, which looks like a beast. Lex Luger, on the other hand, despite being a huge egotistical heel, is, like Sid Vicious, insanely over as a face for this match. We'll see Luger switch between being a face and a heel many times throughout his career, but to be honest, I always found him more entertaining as a bad guy.
Luger threatens to walk unless the no DQ rule is waived, so they change it to a regular match to pacify him. Why?
Steamboat fires off the near falls early. Luger is actually forced to sell Steamer's chops because they're just that stiff. Ricky makes the mistake of going outside, and when he comes back in, Luger catches him with a knee. Luger knocks him down with a stiff clothesline, drawing a face pop. Ricky fires back but gets hit with a fist to the gut whilst coming off the top. Luger targets Ricky's back and starts arguing with the ref.
Luger then protests for speed of the count and specifically instructs Tommy Young to count 1, 2, 3 instead of 1, 2, 3 next time. So, of course, Steamboat cradles him and Tommy gets off an ultra-fast 2 count. Little details like that are missing nowadays. JR and Bob don't even pound the joke into the ground like Michael Cole would today. It's just a subtle little thing that's put there for people who are paying attention.
Ricky keeps getting up and swinging, but Luger keeps trying to murder him with clotheslines. Awesome. Young tries to separate them, so Luger sucker punches Steamboat and gets 2 off a power slam. The fans are rabid for Luger's blood here, after kind of being behind him in the early going. Steamer charges and gets backdropped from one ring to the other. Luger grabs a chair, but Steamboat scoops him up and catapults him into the buckle. Steamer grabs the chair, with Jim Ross pleading, "No, don't use the chair, Ricky!" Unfortunately, Steamboat can't hear him because that's exactly what he does. Even after the bell, Steamboat continues to wallop Luger with the chair, even going so far as to chase him all the way back down the aisle with it. This was just an awesome, awesome match that was non-stop action from start to finish. This is on par with Luger's best singles matches with Flair.
And now we come to the War Games match. The Road Warriors, the Midnight Express, and Dr. Death Steve Williams, with Paul Ellering and Jim Cornette, versus the Fabulous Freebirds and the Samoan SWAT team with Paulie Dangerously.
This is the pay-per-view debut of the War Games match, as the 1988 version was never shown anywhere that I'm aware of. This is a match type that WWE should really consider bringing back. Following the tag team titles being declared vacant after Wrestle War, a tournament was held to crown new champions. The Freebirds ended up winning the tournament and the gold, and as a result, the Freebird rule was introduced into WCW for the very first time. What is the Freebird rule? Well, basically, when you have a large group of wrestlers, any combination of those two can defend the tag team titles. Other teams that would later go on to use the Freebird rule would include
Demolition, various members of the New World Order and Wolfpack, the Jersey Triad, the Spirit Squad, Free Crowd, and just recently, the New Day.
The two teams make their entrances, with the Road Warriors coming out on Harley-Davidson motorbikes, which just looks fantastic, to the sounds of Iron Man by Black Sabbath roaring over the sound system. Meanwhile, the Freebirds make their entrance to, well, Freebird by Lynyrd Skynyrd. Not that you'd know that if you're watching this on the WWE Network, as those songs have been dubbed over badly, with some of WWE's generic production music. Still, this event shows that it wasn't ECW that began the trend of having big-name musical artists for their wrestlers, for their entrance music. It was, in fact, WCW.
Who'd have thought it?
So anyway, the heels win the coin toss, naturally, to give them the early advantage in the match. Eaton and Garvin start out with a decent sequence, as Eaton adapts quite well to the brawling tactics necessitated by the rules of the match. Michael Hayes does what he does best by trash-talking to Eaton while he's getting his ass kicked. Eaton comes back with a pair of backbreakers.
Terry Gordy comes in as the next entrant, and the Freebirds destroy Eaton. Dr. Death evens things up and takes on the heels with a double clothesline. The future Miracle Violence connection pair off as Williams presses Gordy into the ceiling of this cage an insane 8 times. Seriously, just how strong is this guy?
And if you see the size of Terry Gordy, it's like,
I know,
wow.
it's huge.
Yeah. So, yeah, Williams actually press slams him 8 times into the roof of the cage.
Into the roof, like over his head.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Samu is next, and he gives Doc a reversed thrust kick. Animal jumps in and cleans house as the roof nearly blows off the place. Animal clotheslines the shit out of the heels before launching himself onto Samu from one ring to the other, like a 300-pound missile, as JR describes him. Hayes is pretty funny, as he clearly doesn't want to go inside the cage while all this is going on, so he tries to fire up his partner so that they'll go in next instead of him. Fatu comes up to give the advantage to the heels again, and the Samoan SWAT team double-team Animal. Stan Lane evens it up and tosses Garvin and Samu into the cage. Doc and Animal just clothesline the crap out of the Samoan SWAT team, while the Express handle Garvin.
The cameras catch Paulie and Hayes talking strategy, and Hayes panics when he realises that he has to get in eventually. Hayes gets in and picks his spot, going after Bobby Eaton, who was the one that started the whole thing. Hayes then begins handing out DDTs like candy at Halloween, instantly giving the advantage to the heels.
But then Hart comes in and turns the tide completely by absolutely destroying the heels. Bobby Eaton returns the favour to Hayes and DDTs everything in sight.
Even himself.
No, that'd be ridiculous.
Yeah. Paulie tries to hand his phone through to one of the heels, but because mobile phones are so huge in 1989, it won't actually fit through the fence. In a hilarious moment, he turns around to find Tommy Young, once again the referee, standing with his arms folded and tries to explain himself.
Great stuff. The Match Beyond segment is longer than usual. Bodies are flying everywhere. Garvin saves Gordy from the Doomsday device, so Hawk kills him with a light off the top, gives him a neck breaker, and then puts him into a hangman for the submission at 22 minutes 20 seconds. After the match, the heels lock Animal in the cage and deliver a beatdown, with the faces trying to get back in to save him. Great action from start to finish.
And finally, it's time for the main event of the evening, for the NWA World Heavyweight title. Ric Flair versus Terry Funk with Gary Hart.
This, of course, is the huge supposed blow-off after Funk attacked Flair after his Wrestle War Classic with Ricky Steamboat and broke Flair's neck after pile-driving him on a table. Terry surprises everyone by bringing Gary Hart with him. Flair attacks Funk in the aisle and Funk darts into the crowd to throw a tantrum. Flair goes absolutely nuts on him with a series of chops, but he gets careless, and Funk is able to catch him on the way down. Funk smacks him around a bit, and they both spill to the floor on a suplex attempt.
Back in, Flair gives him a pair of pile drivers, trying to return the favour from Wrestle War.
Hart hands Funk a branding iron to turn the tide. Flair is busted open, and now Funk gets the pile driver he's been working toward. The crowd goes silent, but Flair gets his foot on the ropes to save the title. Funk stays on top, turning the match into a bloodbath and continuing to work the neck. Funk rips up the mats on the floor. Flair reverses that pile driver attempt, but Funk gets 3 neck breakers back in the ring.
Funk stops to trash talk Flair despite Hart pleading with him not to. Flair then grabs the errant branding iron and smashes Funk with it, sending him to the floor. So now, both guys are bleeding, with strawberry jam everywhere.
The ending sees Flair missing a charging knee in the corner. Funk decides to change tactics and attack the affected knee, going for the spinning toe hold. But Flair escapes that and goes for the figure 4. But Flair reverses the figure 4 into an inside cradle. But then Flair rolls it over for the pin at 17 minutes 23 seconds. See what little hatred can do for a match? This was an incredible brawl filled with great psychology revolving around the neck and Funk's loose cannon nature. After the match, Muta runs in and blasts Flair in the face with the mist, making it a 2-on-1. But then Sting comes out to make the save. Ross is screaming so loud his voice is cracking. Oh, what a brawl! Indeed.
Wait a minute! Here comes Sting! Sting is going to come to Flair's aid! Sting hammering away at Muta!
Somebody had to come in to save the champion.
Funk and Sting are hooking it up here! Muta now and Funk double teaming on Sting! But Flair is back up! Flair now is back up! Fighting with Muta! Downstairs, upstairs! The bloody champion! And the challenger hooking it back up again! Oh my God, what a brawl we've had!
The intensity is just through the roof. The perfect match to really compare it to is The Rock vs Stone Cold from WrestleMania X7, which is quite ironic seeing as that's the other pay-per-view that's usually considered to be the greatest of all time ever, as it's just an all-out war for the title. The difference is, whilst I feel Rock and Austin is a better match as a whole, this match has far more hatred between the two wrestlers, and therefore has much more of a storyline running throughout it. These two guys bled a ton throughout the whole match, and hit some pretty sick moves on each other. The chops by Flair are just unreal, and everybody knows that Funk knows how to brawl. Yes, these two probably can pull off a scientific wrestling match, but that doesn't fit the story. Seriously, if someone's pile drove you through a table, you're not going to headlock them to death when you come back. So the match works so perfectly. The only time the match went to scientific wrestling was right near the end, and it made sense to do so as Flair had bashed his knee.
Yeah, I feel this is really something that today's wrestling matches need to consider. We're looking at you, Paige and Charlotte. Yes, the two guys in the ring could have a scientific wrestling match, but if it's a blood feud, then you're going to throw traditional wrestling moves out the window and beat the crap out of someone.
Take note, this is how you book a blood feud. In many ways, it was more exciting than the Flair versus Steamboat matches, as there was that added degree of hatred towards each other. That and the insane pull-apart brawl that went on near the end is a great example of how to do this sort of thing properly, as Flair and Funk are both insane enough to make you believe that it's all real.
And of course, the ending of the match only means that Flair vs Funk and Sting vs Muta rivalries are going to continue from here, which can only be a good thing.
In conclusion, this match is not called one of the best pay-per-views ever for no reason. The last 4 matches are quite literally must-see matches. More importantly, it's not just a collection of great matches. Every match has a well-thought-out feud behind it, and it works in as part of a larger story. Indeed, this was the NWA at the height of their creative skills. Not only that, but aside from Terry Funk's interview getting subjected to demonic possession, everything about the production quality seems to be much better on this show. Better music, better pyro, better lighting, better backstage segments, etc. It just really seems that WCW have upped their game a little bit here and made a lot of improvements to the overall presentation of the show. I suspect that they were taking a look at what WWF were doing at the time and took a few ideas from that. Don't you just love it when a promotion comes together? Enthusiastic thumbs up from us here. So all that's left to do now is to discuss the match of the night honours. As I've said before, those last 4 matches in particular are absolute must-sees. Out of all of those 4, I would say the match of the night goes to Flair versus Funk.
I'd have probably gone with the Sting vs Muta match.
Well, I would give Sting versus Muta certainly an honourable mention, but as I said, those last 4 matches alone make this pay-per-view an absolute must-see. So, in conclusion, you can find us at Facebook, at facebook.com/The Big Daddy D Reviews. We are on the Twitter, eat my tweets at the Big Daddy D1.
What was that?
And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/All-CAW Wrestling 1, as well as my second channel, youtube.com/The Big Daddy D Reviews 1.
As well as our third channel.
What?
We don't have a third channel.
We don't have a third channel, that would just be insane. At the Big Daddy D Reviews, I take a look at movies, video games, and tasks from the Poundland, and recently we reviewed some novelty flavoured sticks of rock from Blackpool.
Which is all very nice.
Yes, well, no, they weren't very nice, they were bloody awful. So, please take the time to like and share this video, as well as dropping us a few comments. All that good stuff. Send us some love. In our next podcast, we will take a look at where WWE went wrong in 2015, which is following up from what we did, like a similar video last year. We will also be doing a 5 predictions of what will happen in the WWE in 2000 and indeed in wrestling in 2016. That's coming up later. And the next time that we go back in time to see the WWF and WCW of yesteryear, we'll be heading over back to the World Wrestling Federation for SummerSlam 89 and to hear Jesse Ventura going postal after having to work with Tony Schiavone for over an hour.
Oh, God.
There's also the rematch between the Ultimate Warrior and Ravishing Rick Rude for the Intercontinental title, the WWF pay-per-view debut appearance of the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, and we get the movie No Holds Barred coming over into real life, when Macho Man Randy Savage teams up with the human wrecking machine Zeus to take on Hulk Hogan and Bruce the Barber Beefcake. And oh God, I think I've just been sick through my nose. Ugh.
Oh, it's bringing back images of the Hulk Hogan press up scene.
Yes, lovely. Well, until then, this is the Big Daddy D.
This is the Little Daddy E.
And we're signing off on another episode of the All-CAW Wrestling video podcast type thing. Goodbye.